the irony is our strength is also possibly our weakness, Recently, somebody was sharing with me to rent a Ramly Burger stall in Malaysia, 50 ringgit a day. Then if the aspiring entrepreneur, I can just try it out. Try it out, rent it for 1 week. Don't make money, okay lah, it's not for me. But you've built your entrepreneurial skills.
Yes.
Yeah. And imagine hundreds of thousands of people trying that. So as a society, the cost of failure is very low. And when we talk about cost of failure, I think we shouldn't limit it to only financial. It's also psychological, mental. If you are, now you have a very strong education system, everybody's educated. But if you went through 4 years of school to study accountancy, why are you going to risk it and start your own business when you can go out and work and earn 5, 6, 7,000?
Yeah.
As opposed to starting a business and earn zero, maybe even lose because you got to invest money first, right? Yeah, so you're going to try to look for a job. Because of the structure of society like that, you're not going to encourage people to go and try and start.
Welcome back to TFC Budget Debate. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and today is a TFC Reacts, the Singapore Budget Tauke edition, right? We did it last year, and I think we want to continue this SME discussion because we recognize that a lot of the SME bosses, they have a very different set of concerns, very different set of struggles that is not usually covered in ad, right? So I got a whole room of SME bosses, with a lot of vengeance and a lot of things to say, to come and share with all of us. So yeah, maybe we go one round, maybe starting with Nava, joining me as in my same frame. So yes. Now for our audience that don't know you, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nava. I'm not exactly an SME, but I do support businesses. So I look at enabling individuals and organizations to live and do good better. And we do that by designing experiences and solutions for them.
Awesome. So essentially, we're going to cascade the biggest one all the way until us. Okay, we're the small businesses trying to make things work. Yeah. So maybe starting from Joshua, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Joshua. I'm the CEO of Commune, furniture lifestyle brand. With a strong homegrown brand with presence across other markets like China, Malaysia, Philippines, Middle East, Korea. We're looking to expand to all global markets in the future. Yeah, I'm also the president of the Singapore Furniture Industries Council. So we represent 300 members in the furniture and furnishing space.
Yeah, I'm the president of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, representing the interests of, of course, SMEs. And the one thing I want to say, SMEs have small, you have micro, you have medium. So it's quite a wide variety, and maybe we'll talk more about that later.
Okay. Yes, Mus?
Hello guys, I'm Mustafa. I co-founded or rather I used to run an F&B company in Singapore.
Wait, you sold it?
No. I handed it over to the second gen.
Oh, okay. And you have quite a few outlets, right? You're not just
a few outlets, a few different concepts also, but different from Joshua, I run only in Singapore. We do have ambitions to expand overseas. So some of the grants really could be useful to us. But later on, we'll discuss the struggles and the realities of want to open overseas, but not so straightforward.
Exactly. I got the whole variance at different levels and sizes of the business so that we can all look at the budget from different angles, but all from the SME bosses standpoint, right? So maybe just to open up, for a start, don't need to follow sequence, but anybody has a opening comments based on your feel, after you watch or listen, you can pick up anything. It does not need to be, specific grants per se. It can be the sentiment that you're guessing, the clarity, anybody want to start?
Maybe yes. I can. For me, what stuck out was how the Prime Minister started the entire budget speech. He painted the context that we're operating in, that we made a rather considerable surplus, 1.9% compared to previous years. I think 2023 was a deficit, and then 2024 was a little bit of a surplus, this time around 1.9%, a few $1 billion. But the budget for this year is a bit more conservative. And I thought that was for a reason, that we have to be measured and that we have to plan ahead. What do you guys think?
I think for most businesses, what really stood out for businesses is the cost. Broadly, directionally, you were saying, I think it's in agreement that the budget is directionally not very different. but there is clarity about where the government is driving towards, and I think that's a great thing. For most businesses, what would stand out for them is that costs are continuing to rise. Levies are going up, LQS going up, you have S-Pass going up, EP going up. So it's concerning to businesses because many other aspects like the big picture things will take a while to materialize. What immediately will hit them, or at least in 2027, is all these cost increase. And for many, their business are already treading water, taking in some water, gulping in seawater. And this will, in many cases, tip many over, you know.
I mean, I truly agree with Yue. In fact, all the policies are good, but it's just whether the timing is right. Same thing with the GST increase. This time, the levies and the other S-Pass increments are adding, costs for businesses at a time when businesses are struggling to even survive. I mean, every week you see a new F&B chain closing down, businesses closing down, and that shows that survival is an issue in Singapore. So at this time, is it the right time to introduce such measures, or should we push it down to another year or two?
Speaking of that, right, I also noticed from this budget that a lot of the help that's supposed to be rendered are not direct help. It sends a clear message that if you are willing to change and adapt, and if you are a thriving business, then we'll help you. If you are at the verge of survival, then you gotta do something to change first, streamline your costs, upskill your workers, adapt, and use AI. If not, then if you don't jump on the train with us, then we cannot really help you. I get that
in a way,
sense,
you don't need to help me by giving money. Don't just don't increase costs for me.
Okay, we'll go there. I think there's I need to hold your there. Yes, now any thought?
For me, I think I wasn't very surprised by the breakdown in terms of the sort of schemes that the government has come up with. But I was just listening about, because of the times that we're living in, they're quite unprecedented, right? So I think some of these things were addressed in terms of context, whether it's geopolitical reasons that we're looking at, how tech is evolving, and also the sort of communities that we're looking at, right, that might be left behind with these changes.
Okay.
So I think there were some things that were addressed during the budget based on this, but then I was also thinking about, okay, so what are the implications on businesses that then need to adapt? Like who gets to adapt, who doesn't, and who gets left behind?
So from your point of view as I think micro business, right? Like you're a small little business, consultancy doing this thing. Like what is your view? Or you can have no view, it's like, oh, nobody cares about me. Yeah. So any thoughts on that front?
Right. So I think there was some mention about grants. So I'm still in the youth category. So I was also looking out for support that youth would get.
Okay.
So whether it's for me personally as a leader or things that I can invest in for the team, I think there are some considerable amounts of support. Nothing starkly new, right? There are things that already exist. So I was looking at in terms of capability development, for example. I think there are more opportunities that are coming up, especially with the push for AI. So I was looking at, from a process perspective, what can we do better, especially when you're a smaller organization. You want to cut costs, right, where possible, and increase efficiency. So I feel like on that front, there's definitely some things that are coming up. I'm a very service-based business, so my upfront cost is also a lot less in that sense. So I think there are benefits to that, but I'm also thinking about businesses that have products, you have physical locations and manpower costs.
The other side of the aisle has a very strong reaction there.
Yeah, what that would entail for businesses like that.
So I think that's the broad sentiment. If you have some thoughts, put in the comment section, let us know. We would love to continue this engagement. I think we are recording this one day after the PM's speech. There'll be the COS that's coming, so there'll be more details on the different breakdown of each policy. So, we may continue to cover them on our socials or anything. So just write in the comment section if you have any thoughts after listening as a SME Tauke. What do you feel, right?
I think it's important that you sit there because at this point in time, I think we're all still trying to make sense of what this budget really means for all of us.
Yeah. No, but there's some sense already. Right? I already read the numbers. I have a good sense, broadly, right? There's some nuance from an executional standpoint, yes, but broadly, I think the tonality has been set. The numbers are there, right? So maybe I think just now there was a lot of reaction on the EP, S-Pass, levy, all that bit, right? Maybe I think that will definitely be a big concern. So because we did another podcast a few days back, which aired a few days back, and it's from the working professional standpoint, right? Essentially, there is like it or not, there's an effective minimum wage, system that's already happening, right? Through all these levers and, so it's kind of moving the wage from that point of view, right? So depending on which side of the impact you're at, right, then you have a different point of view. So maybe for some of the professionals, they think of it as, okay, it's good because you're going to raise the ladder, make it tougher so that, not so easy to get foreigner come in and work and all that bit, right? So it's a usual tune, right? But I think it's important to hear, this side of the aisle, where, what do the businesses think of this whole adjustment at this point in time?
I think it's very important for us to take a very delineated approach to looking at this issue. I think for most PMEs, what they're looking at is really the SPAS area of competition, right? I think most of us are in the PME space. Many of us are working in white collar jobs. You don't want a competitor from another country coming, hey, you are stealing my job. I think that's very understandable. And that's the area where EP handles it, right? But I think where Joshua and it has concern, and many of the businesses that hire people that are in the frontline facing role. And in these areas, no one's competing for jobs. Not having Singaporeans say, hey, I wanna hire me. I want this role. And in this case, then you are really 80-90% reliant on the foreign workforce to support that. And that's I think a calibrated approach may firstly calibrated view. I think it's important our viewers, our people, nation, people can see the difference. Then, from business perspective, I think there are views now. Maybe Joshua.
Maybe I can add on to that. I think this is the right direction to increase wages of the Singaporean and local workforce. Yes, and the PWM has done that. And for companies to reduce their reliance on foreign workers, there's the quota system for that as well. But why is there a need for three tools to be implemented? Why is there a need for quota plus PWM plus levy, right? The levy side can be reduced actually because you already have PWM to bring up wages by law in that sense, and you have the quota system to control the number of foreign workers. And the issue on the SPAS is something that we need to address because some of my best staff are Filipino sales staff and they are SPAS. So on the shop floor assistants, they do very well, but because of the requirement for SPAS, we have to increase them to the level that we are forced to let them go. So we're losing our best talent in that sense in an industry where it's so hard to find help.
So just so I hear from your point of view, at a comparable wage, because SPAS I think now is raised to 6, right? EPAS is 6, right?
Yes.
SPAS is 3.
3.6.
Okay, so about 3.6. Okay, so
But that's also to say that's minimum, not 3.6.
yeah, I know.
So if
By
you
age,
have,
you can go up to
exactly.
4,000,
So if you're
5,000.
older and you have experience and you have certain qualifications, then it can be a lot more than 3.6.
Of course,
and
of course.
SPAS has a DRS, right?
There is also a restriction. In fact, it's quite a
so they have a
strong
dependency
15%.
ratio on top of the minimum wage that you're supposed to pay. Unlike EP has no dependency ratio, so to speak, but SPAS already has a ratio where you must hire a certain number of locals before you hire them in.
Okay, so what you're trying to tell me is all these things add together, right? That means we distill it down to a single individual. Okay, so you have this one individual that you have to pay maybe 4,000 blah 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 for it, right? Aga because got age. There's a quantum to this thing, right? And then plus all the other levies that is on top of this person. You can't find the comparable Singaporean to do that same job.
The Singaporean doesn't want to work weekends and work till 9 p.m. every day. That is the biggest challenge.
Can you paint some color? Because if you add everything together, maybe 5,000 something, right?
Yeah.
Agak lah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's a fair
the
number. That's a
take-home
median
sal-
wage, right?
Yeah, could be 4 to 5K.
Yeah, about
so it's
there,
a
right?
decent salary.
Yeah. So it's a decent salary, and
But
you
it involves working long hours in an environment that and the timing and you work weekends, you work public holidays, but that is retail, right? That's where business is made. So that's the key area that is turning away the talent from coming into this sector. And it's not only my business; it's all
Of course.
all retail sectors.
Yeah. But HQ had this problem,
Back-end functions no problem.
Yeah,
Very
because
easy
it's
to
an
hire.
office, right? Yeah.
But the irony is these functions are the best to be augmented by AI, offshoring. These are functions that can be offshored can be augmented by AI, but the ones that we need are the front-facing roles, the blue collar, delivery guys, things like that, the warehouse team. These are the ones that are important and we cannot get help.
Okay. And most of those jobs locals don't want to do, right? But just so I get a bit more on that front, right, which is like a store manager, right? You kind of run the manager, you're the little boss here on the floor. If you pay 6, even up, 7, I don't know what's the numbers that make sense.
You have to be a store manager, you have to first be a sales associate.
Okay, so there's a climbing process, and nobody wants to join the climb. They all want to come in straight away
as a manager.
Okay. So that's the operational reality. What about you guys?
I mean, from a broad perspective, I think we are going in the right direction. I agree, and I see the merits in it. And I think taking the global context into perspective, we do have to, if not, we'll get left behind as a small state. So
but what has this got to do with global perspective? Just so I understand, right? Because now they are talking about...
I have a different view of it.
Yeah. They are just talking about operational. Aku cannot find enough people to fill in the store, right?
So I'm going to get to that because but we have to also reconcile this with realities on the ground, because I'm from the F&B sector and I can already hear, because the budget is only yesterday, I haven't spoken to many owners, but I can already hear a lot of disappointment that, okay, for the past year, we've had conversations about rent, we've had conversations about loosening the SPAS, WP quotas for specific sectors. F&B is the only industry last year not to make a year-on-year growth, and at the end of the day, no direct help for us. Nothing about rent, nothing about loosening the SPAS. Instead, it went the other way around. Increase of the minimum wage for SPAS and WP. Yeah. So I think the F&B operators got to try to make sense of this and internalize. And I wouldn't be surprised in the coming months that you see food prices across fast food chains and restaurants and cafes go up because somebody has to bear this cost. Already the margins for F&B companies are already so thin. You take 1% here, 2% increase in labor wage, 3% increase in rent. And then back in the day, you want to buy food, you either go out and eat or you go there and tapao. Now there's also delivery platforms.
Yeah, 15-20%.
Yeah, they take, I don't know, 20, 25, 30% commission, and that eats into your profit margin as well, 1-2%. So overall, it stacks up. And the thin margin is already made thinner. And now you stack on this SPAS and work pass increment. So the business owner has to make sense of this and incorporate this into their P&L. And then, I don't know, make changes to prices, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and reconcile with market demand. So if they increase now a burger is $15, next time $30, you'll still buy a burger?
I think I have a topic on that. There are some sectors that find it hard to increase price.
Exactly.
Because there is competition from foreign companies.
Then when it comes to food, people are price sensitive, Yeah. But
what I'm trying to understand is like you were trying to say like, but this is like global trend and all that, right? So I just want to reconcile like how is that global? Are you trying to tell me that the government of the day raise all these things so that it further disincentivize you in the current system to then force you to change, right? Because I mean, this is how governments work, right? They will incentivize you in the way that they want, right? That's just how this system is done. We cannot lie to ourselves, right? And they will disincentivize you in the area that they don't want, right? Maybe it may not be a punishment, maybe just no support, right? I mean, I don't want this, right? Then I don't support this, right? It's normal. So are you trying to tell me that, okay, we take one step further down this path so that all the smaller businesses and all the SMEs around, right, have to really take this like AI, automation, machinery thing very seriously, and like front load the capex to then adjust their processes. Because like you said, prices are sticky, right? There's inelasticity in some prices. You just cannot raise. So just want to get that.
Anyway, I know I have to qualify this is not my point of view, but I think we have to look at a pragmatic perspective where productivity, as cool as it sounds, it's key to the survival and progress of our society. So for every service staff that Singaporean that you can train as a service staff, if you can train him to be an AI engineer, then your GDP and GDP per capita will increase tremendously. Yeah. So why should you? I mean, it sounds wrong, but why should you invest a lot in pouring into the F&B industry when you can pivot the entire country into like AI? So I think in the entire budget, right, it's sending two messages, telling the local SMEs like, you go into AI, be talent ready as a society, and then you're also sending a message to the world. AI companies, AI frontier companies, come to Singapore because we will have talent for you. This is the right place to set up.
Maybe
what do you think?
No. I think until AI can cook a good meal for me, then I will agree there.
Yeah, that's why the reconciling with realities is important, because at the end of the day, we are all trying to make sense of, okay, how can AI really improve productivity? For F&B companies, we've been trying to digitalize, we've been trying to adopt AI for the past few years, but in terms of real material gains, how do you measure it? How do you do it? There's no clarity on that yet.
I think, actually, to be honest, I think we are very productive. I mean, I've traveled many countries, and you will be...
Our fair price auntie is the most productive auntie
Very
ever.
efficient packers as well.
Amazing. Because I went to so many countries, 1% tap, 1% pack, 1% everything. The auntie still can upsell you. Still everything. Want to sign, got link point. You want to go... It's like,
She knows everything. She even remember the SKU can key in the system.
Stretching our people to the brim already, right? So I really think our people are very productive.
There's a limit to how much productivity growth can come, because you're already at the peak.
But I just want to add one point about what Mo's saying. I think that the facet we gotta keep on thinking about, right, is that you want a degree of diversity in your economy. If you bring the cost up so high and then you're saying, look, that is the direction is okay. But if you're saying that that's the only direction, everything's got to become AI, I think you may be at a risk of being hit by the bus if you don't have diversity in the economy. So I think the economy needs to have a degree of diversity. If you take that away and you suck out all the vibrancy by putting the cost up, even if you're a good direction, you may have a challenge where your economy becomes so monoculture that it cannot sustain economic shocks, you see. So I think that's something you'll keep in mind.
No, I 100% agree. Like I use this example. If Joshua earns twice the amount that I do, right? Does that make him twice the man that I am? No, like if we start trying to assess everybody by the numbers and the productivity, then we are in huge trouble. Huge trouble, because the F&B industry, we hire about 5% of the entire workforce, but we only produce 1% of GDP. Yeah, so if you're looking at that like, you're taking out 5% of the workforce, only produce 1% of GDP. Come on there, give other industries more.
But 70% of pleasure, right?
No, exactly. How do you measure that?
I get it. You
interface with 100% of society. Yeah. Because everybody needs to eat 3 times a day. Everybody needs to dine out and have coffee and go out. Yeah.
But
so I think if you just measure it like that, we're in big trouble, man.
Of course. And I will get to the part about like it's sucking up innovation, right? Because everything is cost. That one we'll go there later. But I want to hear Nava have some thoughts.
Yeah. So I agree with what has been shared, right?
This is the budget debate. You can debate. You don't need to agree. Yeah.
So just to add to some things, which is there is a role for everybody, right? And every job
at
has
least
a
that's
place.
what we hope to have, right?
That's what
as a society, we hope to work towards a place where there is a role for everybody, right? Not everybody needs to be the same, right? Not every business needs to be the same, right? So please
and there's
continue.
that beauty in that diversity, right? Like you said, like everyone needs to have food every single day. These places are meant for like convening, right? It helps with wellness, gathering our society and our communities. And when people are doing their AI jobs, the AI engineers also need to eat, right? So the food actually enables them. So I'm also thinking about jobs where earlier there's mention about like blue-collar jobs. There's a lot of these that cannot be replaced in some sense. So if you look at like healthcare, for example, like yes, you can automate certain parts of it, like your report writing. Maybe that makes it a bit more efficient, right? But you still need your nurses to care for your patients. So I think from a community standpoint, we need to look at enabling these jobs to happen as well, and also how we can attract more Singaporeans to take on these roles if it's not attractive enough. But understanding that, AI might replace some jobs, but there's still job opportunities available in other areas.
Okay, fair. I don't disagree. Yeah. So I think that will be the talk of the town, right? I do believe that will be the talk of the town, where all these levies and all that. And fun fact for all of you that didn't know, right? Our tax income from levies have gone up by 2 times in the past 5 years. Okay, so it's from 3.6 billion to I think 6 point something billion. Yes. I never just listen to the speech. I read the document. Right. So most people don't read the document. Okay, so then they talk in whatever feel. Right. So any thoughts on that? Because you hire the whole spectrum of different people, right? Yeah. So what as someone that's running the business that is at this scale, right? Like what is your?
I mean, it's always juggling how to bring down levies, how to find local, how to juggle the whole DRQ ratio and all that. Yeah. So this is a challenge. And as I start to offshore to manage costs, it's even harder because the locals are no longer on my payroll in Singapore, right?
I get it.
I have staff in Malaysia, staff in China, helping me to do stuff because it's too expensive in Singapore.
Yeah, same. And I'm a fraction of your size, right? And I really do it. And I think all the SMEs, by virtue of needing to stay relevant and
just
manage costs, right? Just to survive,
you
have to do it. Then you can find room to take risks and invest in things. If not, then your risk structures don't make sense, right? You can't do anything. So is that the intended effect that we want, right? Where as much as I see the Singaporean, there is a certain upside, especially in the content media space, right? If the person doesn't understand you culturally, it's very hard to resonate with you. So there is some space for the Singaporean to play the game. But the cost doesn't make sense. The NTU, NUS, they can give me 100% internship cover. I also cannot substantiate hiring them for internship. Right, 3 months is what? Cannot learn any shit. 6 months, then maybe you can do something, right? Then I can take the budget and hire, your digital marketer in the Philippines.
In Malaysia,
in Malaysia,
literally a third of.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is an unintended effect if we were to continue squeezing on levies and continue to kind of like make it harder and harder for businesses to operate here, right? So I think just now you had a great segmentation on like, there are certain jobs we all know the Singaporeans want, right? This is the bit, right? And then there's this other part where Singaporeans don't want. So like, you're making it hard for businesses to operate.
I can add on to this topic on the area of quotas. So currently the service sector is a very broad sector. It covers financial institutions, banks, F&B, retail, the whole chain, all blanketed under service sector and one ratio for the whole sector. What we need to do and what I think we need to do is to be more granular in our approach. There are certain sectors like banking and finance where blue collar is not important, so the foreign worker ratio can be limited. But sectors like F&B, sectors like retail, where we have back-end ops, delivery guys, people like that, we need an increased ratio. So in total, the ratio, the absolute amount of people might be the same, but allocating the ratio into the different segments, that needs to be done because we are seriously facing a manpower crunch.
Okay, fair. So maybe we move the topic a little bit into the whole capital structure and like try to develop businesses through all these grants and all that. I think that's a big bracket that's been discussed within the budget. A big part is about the growth capital initiative, trying to get more money around. Although I don't believe that we have no money slushing around. There's a lot of family offices, a lot of money sitting around. There's just no opportunity to invest in, right? That's why everybody end up in buying the next shop house, because residential cannot, right? So I'll squeeze in the shop house, then convert into rent guard, right? Then the operators like us will struggle, right? So that whole, there's a lot of money in Singapore. So I do not believe, it is a problem about capital. I think it's a problem about deal flow. There's a lot of problem about whether companies can move from one level to the next level to the next level and grow, right? And then the different grants at different levels. So maybe, opening up to everyone, what is your take on, some of these discussions around market development, around grants, around, capital and all that? Yeah.
I think if you look at the capital market development in the last 1 year, it has been moving in the right direction. Because prior to that, SGX has not been the best place to list, to say the least, right? Malaysia was doing a lot better. They had more listing. We had more delisting than listing. But I think we are turning a corner, I think, and I think we're making the right moves here. And part of that also is about investing in small cap, mid-cap companies. So this growth fund, if we continue ahead in this direction and we continue to encourage family office budget and all that to be invested in the business, that provides a portion of the growth ladder for businesses to head towards, right? And that also keeps our capital market vibrant, which then can be redeployed back into new innovative businesses. I think that's a very important part of the growth ladder. That may not be the only piece, but I see that part stitching together quite nicely.
What about the other pieces?
The other piece of the growth ladder we think is really about allowing the watering the ground at the micro, the small, the startup side. But you cannot think of startup purely as I must go for high scale, those that can really scale. There are all kinds of startup. And I think we should be a bit more embracing of all nature and type. And we should really bring the cost of failure down, of which rental and manpower cost is one component, so that businesses have a chance to experiment and try. I've been looking at Malaysia quite a lot because I actually am heeding my own clarion call to go overseas. And you can see that there's a lot more variation in businesses, a lot more experimentation. And that's largely because the cost isn't so high. Therefore, entrepreneurs are willing to experiment. And through experimentation, you get innovation. And that's very important because you don't want Singapore to be all replications of the same thing. And, one thing works and then you have 20 other companies trying to replicate the exact same thing. You have no innovation, right? I think in this day and age, the innovation is really important. And that's the watering the ground. And then you have pipelines and pathways to then raise them to a small company and then medium company, and then you scale it up, right? But you need to have that pyramid, and the base is important. But right now it looks like that the base is a bit being neglected and maybe eroding, and you're going to have this, narrow thing.
There's no feeder.
And then you're saying, let's attract the foreign companies. But it's not the same. The foreign, you need both. But the foreign companies will have very different constitution and nature and, I would say a national identity, right? So you need to continue to have this so that you have some form of integration ultimately.
I don't disagree. So maybe just my point of view on that front, right, which is the capital markets at the top, I think that one is already reflecting like EQDP, all that, it kind of drives the vibrancy in the market. But we also don't want a phantom market, right, where everything is bidded up, right? You don't want that to happen. Then it creates a lot of structural risks, for the overall market, and you're not then driving innovation on the real economy. You're just driving speculation in the financial economy. So you don't want
arbitration,
that. Arbitration. So ultimately, you're trying to also then encourage the deal flow, right, to fit into the listing, right? But then to do that, you need that climb. Or if not, you need to attract foreign deals to come in to list. Right? So that's one part of the ecosystem.
I think we need both. So it's important. The foreign deals are being seen and we're trying to attract, but the growth part,
exactly.
And the growth part is hard. You see a lot of failures. And you see, and if you are highly and only result orientated in thinking, then you say, I don't want to bother with this. I will only attract the foreigners because that's an easier way and faster way. But there are costs to it. So I think we cannot just take the easy way. We've got to take sometimes hard way because it will result in better national outcomes.
Of course, we want our champions to be our people. Then there's an outsized incentive to invest locally.
It's better integration, right? You get a better society, social integration. It's less problematic for all of us.
Maybe on that note, right, since you're the president of the ASME, you probably have some positions on how to promote this thing, right? Like to build this ladder. Do you have some thoughts as a source from your
I think that if you look at our budget paper, one part is that we see that there's a K-shape or a two-speed economy. Now, if you look at the budget announcement and you look at a lot of the public announcement that cites aggregate numbers, you say that Singapore is doing very well. But if you talk to people on the ground and businesses on the ground, many are saying, hey, actually, that's jialat. No, we're swimming, just maybe eyeballs. Drowning. And why is that the case? I think that the current situation is that some companies really are doing very well. The manufacturing ones, especially, selling to US, and some of them are winners out of this geopolitical situation. And many others are now with the noose so tight around their neck with costs that they cannot really innovate and they're struggling very hard. So we think that part of that has to do also with the size of the company and also, of course, sectoral. But we deal more with size. Therefore, we think that we should delineate micro, small, and medium rather than calling them SME. We should have a separate definition for small and micro because the need and the growth and the care you take to small and micro is very different from medium. Totally different creatures altogether. Now, later we'll share more about internationalization. Okay, but it has impact across all our policies.
Okay, I agree. And in fact, I think SME center should be in the cool part of town. You know, like it should be in the heart of the center. You should do SME center at Scape. You should do SME center at Shenton Way. You know, you want the cool things to be in the heart of the center. Then you will drive that whole. I mean, if we still believe that SME centers work and are relevant, right? You know,
Yeah.
of course, you will believe that it work relevant, right? but the idea is, you know, like you must be in the beating heart of things, right? But yes, Josh, some thoughts on that front when it comes to the whole, like, you know, like news. You're stuck to the top. I don't know if it's true.
I think the direction of just looking at the successful companies and investing in them might not be good for the country in the long run. Because we all know that there are many, many large companies whose founders had to fail multiple times in order to succeed, right? But now the situation with the high costs, I think it discourages entrepreneurship. Because even in the first year, second year, I don't see it making profit with this high cost to begin with, right, if I'm doing something locally.
I also take a similar view. I think we have to take a very long-term view of developing our country. And innovation and entrepreneurship is a very tricky thing. It cannot be prescribed. Be more innovative.
No, it cannot be.
It cannot be
prescribed.
prescribed. It's a psyche.
It's a bottom-up thing. So you need to switch up a lot of the
so
things.
we have to solve the
We need to close one north. Put one north at the heart of the city center.
Yeah.
Really? I think you need to close one, because you see, right? You put one north at the corner of the island. Like you truck all your so-called your most innovative, most highly invested guys at the corner. They struggle to get talent because nobody wants to go to one north. Nobody finds it cool. It doesn't drive into. If we believe in that psyche building exercise, right? Then it needs to be where it's prominent. Then the DBS guy or the UOB guy work until very tired, come down, walk past. Wow, these guys quite cool. Wear t-shirt, shorts. Come here, and can grow their own business. Maybe I should consider. Right? So I think that's the psyche driving. Like we need to sacrifice some rents, essentially. Right?
But
like if you move away from every building needs to be rent optimized, which is a rent seeking exercise, then you can promote, the innovation, right? So it cannot just be like just throwing more money in the same structure, because I truly do not believe it's a money problem, right? This is a structural problem. Yeah. So that is my take.
The irony is our strength is also possibly our weakness, Recently, somebody was sharing with me to rent a Ramly Burger stall in Malaysia, 50 ringgit a day. 50 ringgit a day lah. Then if the aspiring entrepreneur, I can just try it out lah. Try it out, rent it for 1 week. Don't make money, okay lah, it's not for me. But you've built your entrepreneurial skills.
Yes.
Yeah. And imagine hundreds of thousands of people trying that. So as a society, the cost of failure is very low. And when we talk about cost of failure, I think we shouldn't limit it to only financial. It's also psychological, mental. If you are, now you have a very strong education system, everybody's educated. But if you went through 4 years of school to study accountancy, why are you going to risk it and start your own business when you can go out and work and earn 5, 6, 7,000?
Yeah.
As opposed to starting a business and earn zero, maybe even lose, because you got to invest money first, right? Yeah, so you're going to try to look for a job. Because of the structure of society like that, you're not going to encourage people to go and try and start a business. And when people do, F&B, for example, you want to start a restaurant, it's not a 50 ringgit thing, Open one restaurant is really $200,000-$300,000.
Yes.
You got to commit for 3 years. And if you make it, then okay, maybe you have a chance to scale. If not, you're 300,000 back behind. And your friends who started as an accountant, 3 years, already senior accountant now, making $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So now you are emphasizing more the national psyche of like, let's not take risk. Leave it to the people invited to come to Singapore to run businesses.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Over a long period of time, this is detrimental to our society.
Of course.
Because you want to build thought leadership, you want to build Nobel Prize winners, you want to build MNCs, Singapore-owned MNCs. But these MNCs don't just happen overnight.
Yeah.
It needs to sprout from little small companies and then water them, nurture them, and
I agree.
grow. Then we can produce Singapore MNCs, Singapore leaders, Singapore CEOs.
Of course, I have no qualm with that. I totally agree. I mean, if you look at some of the biggest brands and biggest companies of this generation, none of them came from tier 1 cities. right? Most of them came from some weird corners of wherever they come from, in the US, in China, wherever. And they figure something, because those place cost is low, right? So you figure some place, you figure the business model, you grow to a certain level, then you go to the main city, raise the capital, and then you blast. So there is a curve to this thing. The problem is Singapore is a city state, right?
There's
so
no
if
hinterland,
we, so
yeah.
no, doesn't matter whether it's hinterland. Okay, so we can create artificial incubators, artificial hinterlands to disrupt the market forces at play, right? Because ultimately it is not about hinterland. It is about rents, it's about cost, it's about risk appetite. So all these things can control. Right, you can take out 2 buildings in Shenton Way, make it into a thing. It can become cool and sexy. 0 rent, you come in, you register, I give you 3 years, play the game. Right, so there are many ways around these things that I think we can take it more seriously if we truly want to. And that no hinterland, small market cannot be the sole excuse, right? And I think that's why I got JSSEZ, got all these Bintan Batan thing. The international, we'll get to that, okay? Yeah, but from the nano and micro business point of view, I mean, you are figuring out, right? You are starting out and you are trying to see like where do you stand in this like business market, right? So how do you feel, as somebody that's trying to discover like, okay, is there a business here? Can I do this? How is that experience for you as a start?
So earlier there was mention about how with SMEs, there's only about 3% who are like taukees, right? But we create like 70% of jobs in Singapore. So I think there's a real vested interest in looking at supporting founders, especially at the early stages, so that they have the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And
so for you, like, for your personal experience.
So from my personal experience and like from what I've observed, I think like capital is a huge thing, right? But we need to also look beyond financial capital. So yes, I do look out for grants. I know a lot of my friends are looking out for grants, but we cannot also only be dependent on grants, because at the end of the day, your business also needs to be financially sustainable. But it helps to offset some of the costs and get you going. It kind of like cushions you through those failures in that sense. So when I think about capital, I think about beyond financial capital, around like social capital, right? What ecosystems do you get entryway into? And I think that's what the grants help with sometimes.
So are there these ecosystems for you?
Yeah, so there are a couple. So
Okay.
so I just
you
want
can
to
name drop a few, yes.
I
Shout
can
out to
name
them, yes.
So I think SG Enterprise has a couple, right? So you can see like what's your eligibility for it. There was mention around not just early stage startups. Now they're also looking at growth level startups. So I think it's good that there's a pipeline for different types of organizations. Again, I shared like as a youth, the things that I look out for as well. So I think from the SG PO office, the partnerships office, they're looking at even if you have ideas that you want to pilot, there are things that you could look at. So this is under MCCY. For myself, I took part in the Youth Action Challenge. So this was a couple of seasons ago. And I've seen some people, really use that platform to build their startup and then leverage other grants and opportunities, whether it's in Singapore or overseas as well. So there are definitely avenues to do that, right? And I think beyond social capital, we can also think about dream capital. How do we get entrepreneurs, especially at the early stages, to be able to like fail and start again and fail forward? And think about dreaming bigger, right? And finding ways that we can do better along the way.
Okay, fail forward, fail more and do more. Very simple. Cheap, easy to fail, keep doing. That is the basics, right? You can talk until the cow come home. The basics is it must be cheap. Your risk must be low, easy to fail, keep doing, keep trying, keep testing.
I want to share something about what Nava said. See, Nava, what you're saying is that, okay, it's okay that the cost is very high because then you can have grants to then offset it. The challenge with grants is that it's very highly human dependent, highly administrator dependent. It introduces a lot of inefficiencies. So if done right, it will help moderate and help offset to some extent and help direct. But if not, you actually distort market forces very badly and you may not create any real outcomes.
Right.
And what you create is a virtual, non-existent outcomes that actually doesn't translate into any long-term competitiveness, because the guys who are administering the grants and designing the grants may not have the real ground experience that knows you're picking winners,
Yeah. And I agree on that, right? Because I have been deterred from applying for some grants on that basis as well, because it takes a lot of time to write these grants. It's very administrative. And then once you get it, it's also about looking at following up on it. It is a lot of work just for that, beyond the business.
Yeah.
So I think especially like for smaller businesses where we already very time scarce, energy scarce, right? Considerations around grants, like it's great that there are these avenues to support, but sometimes it actually takes more work to get it.
Yes,
You're right.
Yes.
And
we don't want entrepreneurs.
And in the reality, if you think, the strength of an entrepreneur is to develop your keen sense of what the market is.
Yeah.
But if you spend too much time doing grants and all that, it is a non-existent virtual reality there that really is not the real market. So if you spend all the time trying to, let me fit into my proposal, let me invest time, you are distracting yourself from really building your real capabilities.
Yeah.
So then overall, if people do that, it distorts market. It actually is very inefficient at deploying the market force at play.
So I think it depends on the types of product or service some founders are looking at, right? So for some of it, maybe they're very R&D heavy. So they need some grant to just offset that.
No, but that's a segment, totally different segment. If you're doing R&D, that is not market ready. Okay, yes.
I mean, I agree on the point of grants. I think we cannot be too reliant on grants. I think we've been trained that have grant and do. That's a bad.
You think so?
Yes, because I've seen
Because you've seen a lot,
I've seen
right?
it in my association.
Okay.
We launch a project. Oh, this is the cost. Got grant or not? No grant, don't do. Don't do. Even though it's good for them, because there's no grant.
I get it. Okay. So let's move into the last big bit.
What, grants?
Which no, not about grants, right? The last big bit, which is internationalization, right? I think that is the story. That's the tune of the town for a few years already, right? I think this year does sound like there's some adjustments, but not drastic. And it has gotten to a point where I do feel a little bit. I mean, I say this, I feel a bit gaslighted. Okay, as keep telling me internationalize. Because to me there is a natural progression to the business. Some businesses naturally will go international. Some businesses are ready, maybe like Moose, right? Just need to choke a bit more support. Bring you for a few trips. See, yeah, maybe can. Like a bit support. Okay, can go already. So you are ready to internationalize, right? So these are the business you capture and make them fly great. But sometimes it feels like it is kind of like dissing the others and say, hey, you are not ready. But actually that whole growth trajectory, like what you say, right, is not really existent. But that's my point of view. So I want to hear what you guys think of this, like internationalization.
Reggie, you internationalize what?
I global. Okay,
global.
not like that.
Okay, I think that internationalization is part of the rallying call from the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. From a very, very fundamental cultural perspective, I want to share that. We see that culturally, Singaporeans, we have a frog in a well situation. So we will always say that Singapore is the best, therefore we don't want to step out of our shores. I think that this, as a cultural artifact of our upbringing and the fact that we're very well run compared to maybe in the region, is separate from whether your business can internationalize. But sometimes because we have no experience and we're so stuck with like, hey, Singapore is the best, we don't step out. You can't distinguish whether your business has opportunities or not. Or is it a psychological barrier you've got? So I think we've got to first take away that psychological barrier, look at what's possible and be brave. And don't keep comparing to Singapore, because I talk to a lot of business owners, whenever they step out, they say, hey, but Singapore is so much more clearer, the laws are better. And so that really holds them back from discovering what's possible out there. So I think the cultural background needs to be removed and really embrace the international facets and see what's possible. The other part I wanted to caution about this rallying call now that's happening is that we have seen companies that are set up designed to take all the grants and supposedly help SMEs that actually don't create any real economic outcomes. And they have been they've been hoovering up all the PSG grant, no outcomes, in fact, a lot of complaints. And then they move on to become trainers, and now they've got academies and training, and they're doing a lot of that as well. So I'm concerned now you have XXX company international helping SMEs, but no real transformation. Now, why do I say that? Because the reality of, you see, from a civil service or policymaker perspective, you want things to be ideally easy to happen, right? But the reality of internationalization is not simple. Highly nuanced, highly layered, and a consultant that you throw a grant at and then he help you solve the problem is not going to solve your problem. It's got to be the business really trying, and maybe the policies trying very hard to make sure it's grounded and working at all different layers, whether it's a sectoral layer, whether it's a size issue. It's not going to be one size fits all. So when we say, hey, 70% grant, there's a lot of work. But that kind of work cannot be just saying, oh, maybe you can go and talk to this company that will be a grant consultant to help you. I think we got to go past that and understand that if we want real economic outcomes, we have to apply a lot more work at all layers, work very hard. And on a trade association level, we are willing to do that. We just went up to Chongqing, 19 of us. No grants, all business owners, and we are trying to create connection over the other side such that the help that we are going to administer and help our SMEs will be at a level where the SMEs need, which is, for example, hiring on behalf. So you don't even have to think about setting up company, investing and start up. Just hire and have a headcount there. Now, this is the kind of work that we are thinking about that's going to be innovative and on the ground. But very likely, it will not fall into your 70% grant, does it check all the boxes? So these are, that is what, from an association perspective, we are concerned because you're saying, oh, look, I want to help. But if you then force it through a whole bureaucratic machine, which is then, designed in a very fixed format, that may be not grounded, you may not get the kind of help and the kind of economic outcome that you're going to get. So I think it's really important we think about economic outcomes, not just KPIs. Economic outcomes, that's important. Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Josh, he's the international one.
I really appreciate the increase up to 70% for internationalization grant. That's very helpful.
No, I think that's exactly the ladder, right? Some businesses are ready and you want to tap and you want to make sure they grow out there, make the exports, do money so that it can lift another generation of people together, right? So
so back to the grant side, MRA, deeper investment, I agree. I mean, at the association level, we are also practicing that. We have a 3L approach, which is learn, launch, land, or localize, basically. So instead of just going for mission trips, see the ground and expect companies to start business there, the next step is really how to get them on the ground, having consultancy and the business matching all done so that they can really start work rather than just going for a mission trip and then coming back and just knowing a little bit more about a country. And a lot of pre-work was going to be done to educate them before they even go. So I think that part MRA can come in to assist. But the part on internationalization being like the secret medicine that can cure all illnesses.
The magic bullet.
Magic bullet. Everything internationalization will help you. I think it's wrong. First of all, companies must be of the right, not size per se, but of the right maturity to go overseas. Yes. Because when you go overseas, when you go to a country that's not like Singapore, trust me, it's very, very difficult on the owner, on staff, because they are navigating a whole new world. Just customs alone, setting a tax office. These are things that in other countries are not like Singapore, well run and very straight. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if a company is not big enough to go, you end up spending a lot of time firefighting overseas and businesses that doesn't work. But another point is that if home ground is not established and with the high cost we are struggling on home ground, it's very hard for us to think of overseas, right? The fire, we haven't put out the fire at home yet, how to go overseas. Unless we say, let's go overseas and don't care about our home, right? Which is a different take altogether.
But you guys are already overseas and in many different countries, right? I mean, I read your financial reports. So, do you have some thoughts around like, if somebody is, okay, so we already write off if you're not ready. Okay, so we assume you're ready. You want to go overseas already. As a big enough business that have tried different markets and been to different places, do you have some thoughts and ideas for them?
So I think it's important to learn from each other, gaining our experiences, and I believe the associations play a very crucial part. We join an association to be a group of people that share a common interest. And if companies are willing to share their knowledge across to their fellow members, I think that will really help because you don't have to go through the whole cost of failing so often.
I think when you look at internationalization, we really should be tapping and doubling down on associations to be a very primary pipeline to help companies internationalize, because naturally they understand the members, they understand the sectors, and they understand the sizes, and therefore they are actually the best place to actually support this internationalization efforts more than internationalization consultants.
So Moose, I think you are the next international F&B giant.
Oh, shit.
So, I mean, like that's how I look at it, right? You are probably, at least as a fellow entrepreneur, I think you guys are ready, right, to like take on the wider space out there, right? So, like, what is your view of, you know, the grants or the systems, or like why are you not there yet, or like what are the hurdles you need to cross, right, to go international?
Okay. So if I've alluded to earlier in my introduction, I think it's not so straightforward. But first, I think Joshua, I think we really do have to appreciate that there's an initiative like this with the Singapore government. Many other countries, they don't have this kind of support. So 60%, now up to 70%, and for bigger companies, 50% if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so I think that's great. But in reality, it's not so straightforward, because the appeal is there. So when you study, recently I went to Jakarta, I was in Kuala Lumpur, and you study on paper, on P&L, it makes perfect sense. Rental is that much lower, cost of labor is that much lower, cost of goods that much lower, and then selling price not that far off from Singapore if you convert to their currency. Then you realize, cannot be what? This is too good to be true. But in reality, it's messier than that. So first of all, there's that. On paper, it looks appealing, but in reality, you have to deal with cultural differences, the norms and the mores in these countries. Secondly, for a company like mine, brand-wise, we appear to be ready, and we've been exploring to go abroad for the past few years. But again, it's not so straightforward, because F&B is ever evolving, and the challenges and the cost pressures are just like pounding at you every day, every week, every month. So one moment you wake up,
moment you want to internationalize, the next month, wow, I got fired, I need to solve this problem.
Yeah. So it's like a constant tango between like, okay, we have to do it because on paper it makes sense. And we have the contacts, and go there, come back, go there, come back. It makes perfect sense. And then come back, I think cannot, because if we leave the operations here, it will crumble. So I think we are still in that phase where we just have to take that leap of faith, go into this thinking that this is going to hedge our risk in Singapore, and hopefully diversify our portfolio. I think we have to do that with that spirit. If not, it will never happen. And I think this is on a lot of the minds of a lot of, I wouldn't say strong businesses, but strong brands in Singapore. They are not that big, but they have that appeal to, hey, your brand will do well in Tokyo. Your brand will do well in Taiwan. I think this one will fly really well in Jakarta. But sounds good. But as a business owner, like, okay, thanks for telling me that. But in reality, it's not so straightforward.
Okay, fair. What about you? For micro business, do you think would you benefit, or do you think you should spend your effort, thinking of all this, or should you just hunker down, find your footing, find your market model, like where do you think, a shout out to the micro businesses?
Yeah, so I agree with what Joshua was sharing earlier about the maturity of organizations. So I don't think internationalization is for everybody, right? But if it is for your business, maybe even if it's not in the immediate future, there are a couple of things that micro or nano businesses can look at, right? The first part is looking at capabilities, even in the shorter run. So if you're thinking about expanding in the future, there's some things you have to do right in the beginning in itself, right? In terms of like capability development, setting up the systems for the organization. And if you don't fight your fires where you are at, when you're setting up things further away, that'll be harder to fight in the future. Right. So I think at least in the short run, these are things we can consider. The second part is about more consciousness around what local context is. And that takes time to build in terms of knowledge, especially for founders, right? And that's something that micro businesses can look at in the short run while thinking about the longevity of expanding. And then the third part is collective wisdom and resources that we can leverage, whether that's associations, local communities in these different countries that we can look at, and even having conversations and starting from there. From my end, with Together for Good, we've been having some pilots in different countries, having these conversations for years. So I know I'm ready to take that step. So the last year was really about building those partnerships and driving conversations. And now we're in the midst of signing some MOUs at least.
Nice.
To get things going. So I'm very excited for that. But yeah, there are things that people can do. I think there are avenues of support available. It's just, whether you're at that stage to then take it up.
Fair.
I can add on to that. I think if you are small and not ready to go overseas, but you have a partner, like another brand or another business that is ready, you can also tag on and go together with them, basically, not going in yourself. And I think there's strength in numbers when you go to an overseas market. If you are going there as one Singapore brand in a sea of the foreign brand, you will not stand out. But if there's a whole ecosystem of Singapore brands that all go together, you'll make a big difference. Maybe we see that in F&B now, right? There's a big shift, and there's a lot of mala chains. And
are you
Gunan
testing out?
chains.
Are you guys going to test out something in the
At
furniture?
the association level, yes, we are trying to do that.
What we recommended in our budget recommendation is that the policy or MRA be tweaked, right, such that if you apply it as a group, you actually get even more support. Because you want to encourage people to come together, especially the small and micro, because they can't go at it alone. And you also want to signal to the ground that, hey, Singapore companies should be working together and not compete with each other. So come together, Team Singapore. So I think it's a good signaling. So far, of course, we haven't seen it, but I think that's something that we should do.
Okay, great. So that's all. Hopefully we don't get cancelled. Put in the comment section, share your point of view, share your thoughts. In closing, any last things anybody want to add, for this budget?
Persevere on. I think, things will...
I have to persevere.
Yes, have to persevere,
Okay.
Just tighten your belts and move forward.
What I actually feel is that businesses must confront whether your business is working or not in this current shape or form, because costs are going to continue to go high, rise. So if you need to close down, rework your business model and restart and design it well, geared for the current situation, current climate. Start all over if you need to, but don't be too stuck with whatever that may not be working right now and confront it.
So, any menu fans or not?
No menu fans.
Don't have.
No.
In football, you recently Menu. Not bad. Menu doing not bad recently.
I heard,
then there was a period of time to keep losing. But no, Menu fans will always say, form is temporary, class is permanent.
Arsenal fans can attack him, right? Chelsea or wave.
So I think this budget is a very clear signal that relief is temporary. Adaptability is permanent. When you adapt in the long term, you win. And if you're willing to get on with the program, whether you're a business, you're a family, or you're an individual, we will be there to help you.
Cool. Yeah. Any last things?
Yeah, I think for me, with the budget, it's about, asking a question whether support's available. And I feel like there is, at least on my end, I feel like there is, right? But the question is about whether we are transforming fast enough, as well as inclusively enough, and understanding who gets left behind and the kind of support that they would need in a more targeted manner. What gives me hope as well is a more holistic aspect of things. And I was looking at the entirety of the budget around Singapore wanting to stay open. Given our geopolitical climate, I think that's
our
refreshing to hear.
customs levy have stayed constant over the past 5 years. We never adjust, so we never try to charge tariffs and all. Yes.
Yeah, investing in deep capabilities, right, and committing to taking care of our workers through this transition. I also hope to see that from the businesses side of things. And what I see is also this moment calling for more shared responsibility. Right. So from government support, from businesses needing to transform, workers building up capabilities, to as individuals being part of society, how we can also remain compassionate through these times.
Fair. So maybe I think my closing will be that, as much as we want to transform, improve, stay relevant, all business people want to do that, right? You want to make profit, you want to make sure things work, keep your lights on. There are some realities, that you are at your wit's end already, right? So I do think some of these things you really optimize to the corner already. And if you really want any more change, then it's structural. That means we gotta start firing people. You gotta adopt, tech. You gotta change the customer experience. You gotta rework your whole fronts, and then you ask yourself whether is this what you want, right?
At what cost?
So ultimately that is what it is. So yes. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned. Next week, we will have more specific topics targeting different aspects of the budget. Meanwhile, take care. I'll see you all. Bye-bye.